Hey friends, I wanted to share with you about how since yesterday the fires in Colorado and Utah have just exploded and it's just awful. Creates beautiful sunsets, but they're still raging across all of the western states and Canada, Russia, and we're just going to talk about Colorado and Utah because there's so much and it's very local to here. And so the joined cherry and iron fires in central Utah, they began June 19th and they literally exploded in size due to, just like here, the poor snowpack, 25 to 35 mile per hour winds with 50 mile per hour gusts over fiery areas, and the relative humidity is in the single digits. You know, extreme drought, dry grasslands and shrubs. A lot of that wonderful sage, like it's like we pick it and cook with it. It's that, and it burns really well. The singular, this now singular fire, the cherry and iron fires in central Utah, is burned into now as one, and it's bigger than Salt Lake City right now. It's bigger than Utah Lake, and it's burning eastward toward that lake. And Orem and Provo, Utah, are on the east side of that lake, so they're, probably protected from the fire, but they're seeing red skies and ash fall. And then the Cottonwood and Babylon fires in Utah are massive and expanding. Okay, the joined fires, meaning they were three, now they're almost one, pretty much one. There's a space in the middle um, that hopefully nobody's in. It's very remote, so, unlikely. The joint fires of Jones Knolls and the Snyder fires that took 3 firefighters from us, it still is burning, as well as the Doe Canyon and Ferris fires that we talked about yesterday. The Doe and Ferris fires are in extreme southwest Colorado. And the Gold Mountain fire near Ouray, Gold Mountain Fire near Ouray, Ouray. That's kind of a weird Ouray. It's really bad. It's much nearer to here and particularly worrying because it started and spread under this, same conditions as the fires in Utah. But Ouray's surrounding terrain it's very mountainous, intermountain. Okay, there's very steep cliffs, deep canyons with small, tiny roads. No interstates go through there. No big highways. They're tiny highways, and the small roads include Highway 550 in Colorado. In this stretch of 550 is like a 25-mile scenic area. It includes the infamous $1 million highway. Okay, and the scenic part is if you have the nerves for it. Okay, you may not be able to enjoy the view because of nervous breakdown issues. And so this highway 550, the $1 million highway, connects Silverton and Ouray, Colorado, which are very important tourist towns. Aspen and Telluride are also nearby. And the $1 million highway, like I said, was a portion of Highway 550 in south central Colorado. And it's cut into the side of the mountains, just like jammed right in there. Um, and the edges are like hundreds of feet of drop, hundreds of feet, like 300-400 feet, and there's no railing. And the reason why they don't have that is so snow plows can knock it off the roads, blow it off, really scoop it off really quickly in the winter time. And I'm just, I think with today's great minds and crazy roads like that, it's one of the worst in the whole country as far as danger. Quite honestly, as far as falling off, I mean, there's probably more danger with like traffic and crashes, but whatever. This is, anybody who knows this road is like, holy crap, that's the road that is the $1 million highway. And we would think that, we could have something that could suck it up and then blow it off, but they don't have anything like that. And so it's a mental and physical atrocity of a road. And the hairiest part is about 12 miles. And so it takes, an hour to get through it because it's, sorry, it takes about an hour to get through it because it's so slow and curvy, and there's 7 and 8% grades and like super tight hairpin curves. I mean, just mind blowing. Okay, so The point for all of that anxiety, and description of this particular road and that anxiety pause that I had there was that firefighters are not going to be able to go there. It's probably, I mean, there's all the tiny roads, but it's probably going to be more like fighting it from helicopters and that kind of thing. There's some that can go by road, but it's really difficult to get to, and so that makes it much more of a danger. And then the Colorado Governor Jared Polis has declared a state of emergency because that's a very dangerous fire that's threatening these very touristy, beautiful small towns. And Ouray is considered the Switzerland of America. It's beautiful, and the dramatic landscapes during these type of horrible conditions make it and the surrounding wonderful towns very vulnerable to natural disasters. Okay, and then briefly in northern New Mexico, the Beehive Fire it's northwest of Taos, which is a gorgeous, artsy, fantastic place and very Native American centered. I love Taos, and it's fast growing toward. Well, it's in a really remote area, but it is, like all the others, it's blowing eastward, and so the there's a really explosive fast fire growing called Aspen Acres, and it's southwest of Pueblo, and it is literally racing toward I-25. Shocking. It's shocked. The speed of its growth is quite shocking. It was discovered yesterday, June 29th, and in less than a day, a small blither of a mountain fire has, grown so much to 20,000 acres in a day. And hurricane force winds, like literally 100 miles per hour, are driving this fire. It carries the embers, like the wind will blow it way up, in the sky, and hundreds of miles. It could go in hours and a couple of days, and it's forcing entire mountain communities like Beulah, Rye, and San Isabel to evacuate. And then when the heat and the drought and the wind and the dry force, all of this stuff is in alignment, you need to just get out. You have to get out. And so the Aspen Acres fire is in a location where the steep, towering mountains, where 13 and 14,000 foot peaks, give way to the western edge of the Great Plains. It's a transitional zone, and unlike the sagebrush dominated fires in western Utah, the Aspen Acres fire is burning through a mix of ponderosa pine, Douglas fir, Gamble oak, pinyon, juniper, mountain shrublands with also the grass and sage. That is just absolute tinder. Okay, and when those fuels are critically dry, the fires can move from the ground into the tree canopies, which makes it even bigger. It makes it hotter. They produce intense crown fires. And as an aside, okay, the mountain range in which Aspen Acres fire southwest of Pueblo is burning, that mountain range is called the Wet Mountains, and it's no, it isn't wet. It's not. It's incorrect. Okay, and then all along the front range of from northern New Mexico through the I-25 corridor, including Pueblo, Colorado Springs, Denver, Longmont, Loveland, Fort Collins, and just over the Wyoming border, Cheyenne. These places experience incredibly fierce winds just by the front range experiences these incredibly horrible winds that they mess up our hair, they blow dirt in our eyes, they filthy up our cars, and they spread pollen, and then they drive those fires, and it's just danger, 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 danger. Okay, and right here locally, we're really fortunate to have really caring, quick thinking, acting leaders and firefighters. Yet at the federal level, this is so gross. At the federal level, they're um, developing and actually currently doing this policy that we have had in the United States before, where just stomp out every single fire, every single one, and it's really a destructive policy that will make wildfires worse. Fires are forced renewers. They make things new. Destruction brings new life, as a lot of you know. And some trees, such as the giant sequoias, lodgepole pines, and jack pine, Not all of these are in the same areas. We have some of these trees, not the sequoias, which are in a pretty isolated, exclusive, sorry, gnats, location in California, and they only open their cones when there's fires, and so that's the only time that they're going to be able to release their seeds into, hanging out on the ground. And suppressing fires will lengthen the time that those seeds are released, creating bigger and hotter fires that will kill rather than challenge the forest and make the trees stronger and more abundant. And I think it's money driven, but definitely ate up with dumbass because it's gonna take people, it's gonna take wildlife, and so some of you might remember this, some of you might be too young to remember, but it is there in the history books for sure. The Yellowstone fires of 1988, they were absolutely catastrophic. There were 250 separate fires then in the summer of 1988. That's the summer after I graduated from high school. I remember it really well. Um, there wasn't one big fire, and by the time it was started in the summer, and then by the time autumn came and the snowstorms, which come early and last a very long time in Yellowstone, that extinguished the fires, and by that time, almost 800,000 acres had burned, 793,000, roughly 36% of Yellowstone burned. And within a few years after that, millions of seedlings had emerged, wildflowers flourished, wildlife returned to recovering habitats, burned forests began a new cycle of growth. And I visited for the first time in 1995, and it was the forest differential, like the old trees and the new ones that had grown since, that was 7 years, and it was really evident. And it was very cool to see. I have pictures somewhere, not digital, they were click ones. So in a book somewhere. So the event became one of the world's best studied examples of ecological succession. It was just like a lab right there, after a major wildfire. And the 88 fires in Yellowstone changed wildfire management. They reinforced that not every wildfire should automatically be extinguished. You should let it burn, especially if it's not threatening. I mean, if it's not threatening anything, let it burn. If it is, you got to manage it. But in ecosystems, particularly that evolved with fire, like pine forests, and like I said, the fire damage is still evident today, and policies to squash them, they're going to cause death and horrible land damage, much more in the long run. And with the type of climate change that we're experiencing, which is much more severe than 40 years ago, it's just so much worse. The the long run is the long run isn't as long as it used to be. It's just not. It's so much hotter, it's so much worse, and it's a terrible policy. And I would encourage you and suggest to you to call your representatives to, speak out against this policy, because it's going to hurt people. And anyway, so be well. Have a great night. I'm sorry I rambled, but these things are really important, and we can address it as a group, as we see in the protests that are happening across the United States on a regular basis. These things really do make a difference. Call your representatives and protest these destructive policies. Okay, I love you very much. Have a great night, and thank you for listening to my ramble. I so appreciate it. Thank you.